if you can't find me, you may never want to find me again. Cause people don't understand. People don't understand. People like me.
Happy Tuesday, anyone. Am I the only one? Is anybody else that song getting stuck in your head now? You've done this show so many times. Anyone else just find themselves humming it, waiting in line? Is that just me? I see Cassie there trying
I deliberately avoid trying to.
She knows it's catchy. She just doesn't want to admit it on camera.
No, it gets stuck in my head. It does. It's so fucking annoying.
But we're back
stuck
here
in my head so much that I can basically sing it unconsciously.
Oh yeah, I should play the long version. There's gonna be a longer edit one of these days once I get monetized, so we can like skip through all the words that I can't say. But until then, we are here for episode 32 of the Barroom Podcast, and I'm back with my colorful cast of regulars here once again. We have Colt Classic Cage joining us here tonight. How you doing, Cassie?
Everything's good. Can't complain. Just been hanging out with some friends, talking a lot of nonsense on PlayStation chat. So. That's always good. Can't wait to get kicked off of there and lose my many, many thousands of dollars I've invested in for the nasty things we end up saying and making fun of Lemonade about. So, yeah.
Yep. And if I was Johnny Carson, my Rodney Dangerfield would be Mr. Rob Motto. How you doing tonight, Rob?
Pretty good. Titans got a new general manager from the 49ers, so that's good. And just kind of looking forward to football this weekend and getting back to watching movies. So I'm here for it.
There's a football rant I need to go on, once I'm done with these introductions, because last night's game pissed me off pretty heavily, but we'll get to that in a second. Joining us from her anime cave on somewhere on the West Coast is Mr. M3GAN. How you doing today?
Good. I got a kitty on my lap, and somehow I am enduring the Adderall drug shortage. It sucks.
Yeah.
It's weak withdrawal so far, and it sucks.
Yeah, I would not want to be in that situation whatsoever. Joining us, someone who's not in withdrawal right now, Miss C.S. Johnson. How you doing?
Hey there, everybody. Good.
And then, of course, joining us somewhere on the East Coast in the mountains, deep in the silos of a former military base, is our good friend Orange Hat Reviews. How you doing today, Orange?
I can't complain, but I tell you, I get no respect.
No respect. I mean, dude, go back and watch Rodney Dangerfield's like old stand-up bit. It's like some of it's very, very simple, but the way his delivery is just makes it hilarious. A very underrated comedian.
I have one of those puppet dummies that plays his act. That you can plug in and play his act. I got one of those, and it's freaking hilarious.
Stop hitting yourself. Ow! Ow!
That's what you get. That's what you get.
Ow!
I tell you, she gets no respect. Even her own pussy beats her.
This is what the internet was made for. It's virtual cat fights. So.
Yeah. Ziggy's pretty good at that. Say hello in a kind way, sir.
If we can get you two like in the same room and then have a cat fight, I mean, I may be able to say that on pay-per-view, so maybe we can work on that.
He's a coward. He would just run.
Oh, man.
All right, let's introduce our guys in the chat right now. We got Aussie Johnson's hanging out in the chat with us. Duke Nukem, who is here. What's up once again? We have Alex versus Evil joining us here on a Tuesday night. Our good friend Neo is back with us once again tonight. We have our Dobafett, who's here joining us once again, saying howdy. The song's going to be stuck in your head, the Lego movie. Yeah, it really is. Like I said, I think a lot of people have got this song stuck in their head for a while. Our good buddy John, who's joining us here in the chat, listening to the show here today. Should have you back sometime soon. But yeah, shout out to John. And then, yeah, we got this ridiculous cat show going on right now, which I'm not going to give any more credence to. But I want to complain about yesterday's game for the simple fact that it wasn't a very close game, if you guys didn't realize. Last night, it was the Buccaneers and the Cowboys. The Cowboys pretty much dominated the Buccaneers the entire way. I know there's talks about where's Tom Brady going to go next? Maybe he's going to go to Miami. Is he going to go to Vegas? I think he should probably just retire now. Like I said, you should probably just keep playing while you're still playing at a high level. And this season, he did not play at a high level at all. He became very, very mediocre this season in my eyes. So I think this is probably a good time for him to do his swan song instead of going to a third team and becoming a joke. But that's not the contempt that I had. So there's this kicker for the Dallas Cowboys called Brett Maher. And the Dallas Cowboys scored 4 touchdowns right out of the gate. And he set the record for the most misses in a row for extra points. He missed 4 extra points in a row last night. These are chip shot field goals, essentially. He missed 4 in a row. If you guys were watching the Peyton Manning and Eli Manning podcast, Peyton Manning wanted to jump out of his chair and like literally strangle this man on live TV after each miss. One miss after another, he was just losing his mind. But here's what pisses me off, and this is where I start getting to the fact I didn't really start thinking about this till the last couple of years, but I'm really starting to feel like the NFL is fixed. I don't know if it's coming from the players or if it's coming from the league itself, but keep in mind the game last night, the over-under for this game was 45.5. So that was the over-under. So if you were under, you wanted 44. If you wanted over, you wanted 46. Because he missed 4 extra points last night, know what the over-under was for last night's game? 45. If he had made one of those misses, the over would have hit. And I think like 70% of the money was on the over on last night's game. So a whole bunch of people got fucked over by a kicker who couldn't make 4 extra points. So I don't know. I don't know if the kicker is in on it. He had a bet that he was just going to miss a bunch of kicks last night, or if the NFL fixed the game so they can make some money on the side. But someone's fixing this shit because there's no way in hell NFL kicker misses 4 extra points in a row and the over/under is right at the exact line that Vegas set it on. Am I being a conspiracy theorist by saying stuff like this, Rob?
Well, look, I am somebody who I think that there's been some suspicious stuff in the NBA, but I largely don't believe that the NFL's rigged or fixed, but I also don't want to believe that. You know what I mean? I'm a really big fan of the league. I think it's great entertainment. I love watching every Sunday for 7 to 10 hours. It's probably a little unhealthy, honestly, but I don't think it's fixed, but it's very weird that you're bringing this up because I think it was Barstool or somebody that does those like the NFL picks was saying every game this weekend was a hit on over. So there's no way that every game is going to hit on the over, wild card weekend. And it's funny that this one game literally missed it by what, a point or half a point. So, I do find that really suspicious and really, I guess you'd call it circumstantial. Like the circumstances lining up perfectly to sort of be like, that's definitely something to be suspicious of.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like, you can argue that maybe you're just being over dramatic if it was like 2, because that's the worst I've seen in the NFL is like a kick in terms of like kickers missing. It's normally at most like 2, but 4 is like, did you just have a whole other human being? Like, you might as well put a fucking jersey on me and have me kick a fucking field goal at that point, Like, that's really just very, very strange, and it's really hard to justify that other than, well, people just don't want to go there at this point.
And he's a good kicker, too. That's the weird thing about to add on to it. He's a consistent kicker that doesn't miss very much anyway. So it's
Who is it?
Brett Maher is his name?
Yeah, the Cowboys kicker is Brett Maher. Now, I mean, if you didn't bet on the game, there was tons of memes last night for people who were thoroughly entertained by what was going on. But let's just put it this way. Brett should not make any trips to Vegas in the near future. There's probably a whole bunch of people out there that probably want to have a word with him. I don't think it's going to be too friendly if he goes out there again. But
did you ever see that movie Rat Race?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Cuba Gooding Jr. plays a referee who like blows a call and like people lost money and like they're after him.
Yep.
And so he's trying to hide his identity. It's pretty funny.
Oh, man. So, yeah, that was frustrating to watch on. I mean, look, last year when the LA Rams won the Super Bowl, that just happened to be in LA, first year that they opened the new stadium, I was like, this is kind of fishy, but it's not hard to tell that, okay, the entire league rigged the Rams to win the Super Bowl that year. And last night's game, it was like, okay, this is a little too on the nose for me to just say, like, oh, it's just a coincidence. Especially living in today's times, it's like, I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I mean, you shouldn't either, but I don't know.
Well, you can make the argument. No, you can make the argument that the NFL wanted the rematch between the 49ers and Cowboys. The historical rematch. That's what I was thinking.
But that's the thing, like the game itself wasn't. I mean, the Cowboys pretty much blew them out from start to finish. That wasn't the issue. It was the Vegas odds side of things where it looked very, very fishy. I was like, yeah, it just so happens that because he missed 4 extra points, the over-under hit right at a half point below. So yeah, that's the kind of things that make me scratch my head and go, is there really something else going on here? But I don't know. Maybe in 20 years we'll get another referee who will miss that he fixed games and pretend like it never happened.
Well, yeah, that's something that my friends in the VIP sports chat will joke about. And there is a person that's in there called the NFL is rigged that points all the time.
After last night, I'm more than willing to listen to his conspiracy theories. Let's just put it that way. So
the Reynolds shortage continues.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get started on this night because we do have a few topics that I want to discuss here. Now, I want to start off here with a little film called M3GAN because me, Rob, and Rick had reviewed this film not too long ago. And we all thought it was a pretty solid film. I think some guys may have liked it a little bit more than I did. I gave it a solid 2.5 out of 5. It was like, hey, if you're looking for an entertaining movie to start off the year, this isn't a bad choice for you. But about a week after the film came out, and it did relatively well considering its budget, it was a box office success. People started to say that, the doll in the film, who's like, keep in mind, an AI robot of like an 11-year-old girl, is like, she's the new LGBTQ icon. I was like, wait, what? Like, how did you even swing that one? Because there was no like LGBTQ like connection in this film whatsoever. So how is all of a sudden these people saying that she's an icon? Well, leave it to the screenwriter of the movie itself to actually make the claim, and this is her reasoning, and I'm going to go ahead and read this article for you here, why M3GAN's doll is already being called a queer icon. M3GAN screenwriter Akela Coopers says that the film's theme of a found family has already earned the doll a reputation as a queer icon. So here's what she said. She did this in an interview with SFX magazine. And by asking this, she was like, okay, well, what's your rationale here? And she said, I actually asked one of my friends who is a gay man about that. And he says that the whole setup for the film is actually about a found family where the little girl lost her family and now has to go live with her aunt. Then the doll is also brought into the situation. That resonates with a lot of people in the gay community, the idea of a found family. And Cooper explains there that that's the rationale. Cooper explains here that her friend applauded the fact that the filmmakers chose the character with a strong emotional core that attracts individuals within the LGBTQ community, and then to get then you get the dance scene. It's like yes, all of this is just even better. Cooper says, I would like to think that it is the emotional aspect that pulls people in first, and then M3GAN's awesome dance seals the deal for them. So that's all the rationale here that the screenwriter of this film uses to say that the 11-year-old robot girl is a queer icon, and now everyone in the media and on Twitter is hailing the doll as a gay rights activist. It's weird. I don't know how this whole thing started. I'm gonna start with Rob because you actually watched the movie and have a little bit more insight here. What do you think about her comments about the doll being a queer icon? Do you think they have any validity whatsoever?
No. No. Look, and I'm more than willing to be open to artistic statements and what the person's trying to say who made this movie, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is the screenwriter like retconning this for whatever reason, after the fact, after it's been successful, but this movie has really nothing to do or no association with the gay community. It's, this little girl loses her parents and she gets adopted by her aunt, who is sort of forced to become a mother, and who's been putting all of her time and all of her effort into M3GAN, this AI doll. And she has to sort of actually become a mother and actually put effort and care and focus into a real life human being. So if anything, it's about it's kind of about like just traditional motherhood. And sort of having to become something else because a life depends on you. So I think it's an incredible stretch to make it in any way relating to the gay community. I mean, it's a human thing to go through tragedy and to find friends who become like a family or become having that like secondary familial relationship. And that's wonderful, but like it's very weird that they would try to connect it to being gay or and then just like I don't understand what dance moves have to do with that either. Like that's such a shallow sort of like connective tissue reason to be like, oh hey guys, look at this. This is smart. You know, it's like it has nothing to do with like the point you're trying to make. So I found the whole thing really bizarre. Just like, oh, that seems like a really far stretch.
Maybe
So it seems like
Dumbledore.
just real quick. It seems like the thing to me that they're trying to correlate here is that maybe because certain people in the gay community may have gotten disowned by their parents or shunned by their parents, so they have to go find like another family. Maybe that's the connection they're trying to make here. But in the context of the film, we're talking about a little girl who lost her parents in a tragic accident. Like it didn't have anything to do with the little girl's beliefs or anything that came from like the home system. They died in a car accident, and she was forced to live like with her aunt. So even from that kind of realm, it's like there's really no real connection here between trying to make her a queer icon outside of them just blatantly trying to force it. Nerdigans, I know you deal with a lot of these, let's just say weirdo communities. So have you heard anything regarding this, or maybe you could bring us some insight into the rationale here of this argument?
Well, here's the thing. Like, I can understand if you want to make the Chucky argument and say it's camp as hell and make it that kind of like gay icon kind of situation. But this argument is a literal stretch. And I've talked, I'm part of the drag race community, and one of the streamers I go to, watch for drag race reviews. The community there, they don't understand it either. They don't understand a lot of the logic that's going on with these kids. They really don't. And most of the people in this particular community are like my age. So
which is even weirder considering the fact that this is in the context of the film, like an 11-year-old girl that these adults are trying to claim as their new icon, which is weird, which is very, very odd.
It is really, really bizarre. Again, just compare it to something like Chucky or Rocky Horror Picture Show, where that is like camp as hell compared to this. This is tame. From what I've seen, this is tame as fuck compared to like Rocky Horror Picture Show or Little House of Horrors or Chucky in terms of camp. This movie does not have the level of camp that those movies do. Now, if you made that argument and said this is why M3GAN is a queer icon, she's camp as hell, then fine. I can definitely get behind that. But from what I've seen, she's not even close.
Well, what's your guys' take on this one? Anyone want to jump in?
I actually kind of laughed at this because I was like, well, look at that. Everybody hates J.K. Rowling because she's a TERF, but they also do everything that she does. So M3GAN got Dumbledored. Yep. I
think, honestly, I haven't seen the movie. Can't really give a perspective on it. But when I hear Rob saying it's a film about motherhood, and then like this, they're saying, oh no, it's about something arguably completely the opposite. There's something wrong here. But what I can say that I think the grand scope, the landscape of film entirely and entertainment entirely. By looking at the situation, the reality that you aren't necessarily rewarded upon how well you do, how good your creation is. No, like you don't move up based on that. You have to do dumb shit like this, where you say, oh yeah, this is part of the LGBT and it's a statement about this, that, and the other. And that's what opens doors for you nowadays, your political ideology. It's not whether the film is good, not whether you did a great job, you did the right thing, you brought the money, you got the bag. It doesn't mean that's meaningless now. These dumb motherfuckers can go and lose $200 million, and depending on what political ideology you're trying to convey in this giant piece of shit that you put on a big screen film, it doesn't. You could still end up getting work. You could still end up falling upward. I think that's the main problem here. And I think that's the main reason why this person is saying what they are saying. It's just, well, I'm going to say this, not because I actually care about this community, but this is what unlocks the doors for me. So I don't necessarily blame it in that instance, but if we can't recognize the grand scope of things, that's the problem, really.
Orange Hat, let me shoot this question over to you. This is one of Neo's questions, and obviously the J.K. Rowling, as Johnson brought up, puts a lot into this. Do you think that this is a writer who's trying to essentially make this character part of the community after the fact with no connection whatsoever? Because remember the whole thing a few years ago was what J.K. Rowling was trying to say, that Hermione was always black or some nonsense like that, even though you had like multiple books and multiple movies that never indicated that fact whatsoever. You think this is another, I guess you could say, post production pandering here?
Production pandering, yes. I didn't see the movie. I had more important things to do at the time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
However, them coming out and saying that this 11-year-old artificial intelligent doll is some sort of icon for the LGBTQ queer community and whatnot, well, it just lends weight to a lot of talking points that the LGBTQ is allowing, or it's basically eroding culture. You're now wanting kids to be you want kids to embrace these cultures and be a part of these cultures, when it's a known fact that impulse control and decision-making skills are not fully developed until you are well into your teen years and even into your 20s. Now, as for this whole thing with the LGBTQ community, I can't remember who mentioned it, but yeah, basically GLAAD owns Hollywood. If there's not enough representation, GLAAD's gonna freaking try busting down your damn movie and saying it's a bigoted movie. It doesn't have LGBTQ representation. Now, I've already covered the whole LGBTQ being represented in film since 1916, so I'm not going to rehash that. But I am going to say all this crap where they're saying that this stuff is going to be, or is so powerful, so stunning and brave, so iconic and yada yada. There's crap going on on Twitter right now with the LGBTQ community where they're starting to accept extremely disturbing people into their community. I'm not talking child attracted sickos, talking about others. And I'm not really going to get into details, but I might actually be making a video about that sort of stuff tomorrow. It's eroding our culture. This is what happens when you give them an inch. They want to take more than just a mile. They want to take the entire freaking length of the world, because they originally wanted the right to marry. Well, we gave you that right. Now they want to take over everything to make everything more realistically accurate. You want to know what's realistically accurate? The fact that less than 10%, I think it's around 7% of the entire 8 billion people on Earth are LGBTQ.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not even a billion people.
Yeah, so I want to jump over to this other story because this is kind of related here, what we're talking about. But I know Cassie saw the first episode of The Last of Us, the HBO series, and one of the stars of the show, who I had never heard of up to this point, called Bella Ramsey, apparently recently came out as non-binary as well. So, yeah, she plays Ellie, I believe, in the Last of Us series, which just premiered over the weekend. I think it did somewhere in like 4 to 5 million viewers, which I don't know how successful that is, but I'm assuming that's way below things like Game of Thrones and other popular series. But this was, I guess, a big story that trended right before the show, is that Bella Ramsey, while doing promo work for the series, decided to come out as non-binary. Now, no one can explain to me exactly what the fuck non-binary means, so I'm just gonna assume that it means that ugly women who are too ugly to identify as feminine and just want to jump ahead of us and claim as masculine. So I mean, I don't know, but in an interview with the New York Times, the actor said that they they identify as binary and does not mind any pronoun. So you're non-binary, but you'll use it. Okay, sure, whatever. I guess my gender has always been very fluid, Ramsey says. Someone would call me she and her, and I wouldn't much think anything of it. Why would you? I don't think any normal girl would think anything of that, but I knew that if someone called me a he, it was a bit exciting. I'm very much a person. This actress is like 19 years old, so keep that in your mind as well. Being gendered isn't something that I particularly like, but in terms of pronouns, I really couldn't care less than why I bring it up, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Why is it the most obsessive thing about? Please continue.
No, that's pretty much the whole story here, that she just falls into the LGBTQ plus never-ending representation umbrella. Like you said, it's just consuming our society right now. So yeah, you actually saw The Last of Us, so go ahead and tell us what you think about this story here.
Well, it's like, if you don't care about gender and pronouns, then why do you adhere to it? Why are you so weak-minded as to just simply fall in line? That's what I hate about all these celebrities. They're not people to look up to, because they're just hive mind losers that just follow what's acceptable. None of them dare to stand up for themselves in any real way. It's like, so judging from the first episode, I think that the show is actually pretty good. I enjoyed it for what it was. It followed the game relatively well, and instead of actually discussing, the success that the first episode has brought, and discussing, what she had to do in order to, make this happen, bring Ellie to life, as a person instead of like a video game character. She wants to talk about her fucking pronouns, and it's just pathetic to me, because it's like, at the end of the day, with what you're saying to me, you're a tomboy. That's all. That's really what it is in the grand scheme of things. But adhering to modern day political nonsense, you have to bring in your pronouns, and this whole thing about being non-binary. I don't give a shit. It's just so stupid to me. Nobody cares. I think that honestly, I think that that's the thing. No real person that has a real life, that actually realizes that Twitter is nonsense in the grand scheme of things. This is a waste of everyone's time. So when you want to give these interviews and you don't want to talk about the actual show, the context, how it was working with stars, how you managed to do what you do, because I think that she, so far, judging by her portrayal, I think that she does good. She's pretty good at playing Ellie, and I thought that she was going to be the weakest link. So I mean, what did you do in order to hone your craft to play this character? I didn't get any of that here. It's just, no, you're just going to talk about how you don't understand what gender is. Congratulations, you're an idiot.
Anyone else want us to take this one about the brick-faced actress girl, non-binary?
Well, I will say this, and look, this is kind of what I do on Twitter. I say inflammatory things to get attention. Especially negative.
Like the majority of Twitter.
I respect you for that, Rob, because you don't have an OnlyFans and you leave your shirt on when you do it.
No.
So thank you.
One of my favorite things is when people attack my personal appearance instead of like my ideas. However, when my ideas are like so basic as to damn, that girl's ugly. It's amazing the amount of people that come after you and just want to insult you, and it's like, is this girl like protected or something? And I don't feel like it's that controversial. It's a visual medium. The fact that you're not going to get commented on especially if you stand out as being incredibly ugly, and like, that's objectively speaking, just like unpleasant to look at on any level. So I would have preferred Caitlin Dever. I think, first of all, I think she's a better actress, and she looks like Ellie from the game. Yep. But anyway, that's fine.
But she also doesn't look like a foot, so I mean, she wouldn't work in that.
Exactly. So I'm looking forward to watching the pilot episode. I'm hoping it's good. I know HBO can do good work, but we'll just see how it goes.
I wish more reporters would be like, "Oh, what do you mean by that? Can you explain it to all the racists?"
They're not going to explain shit. They're going to be like, "Yeah, Queen Slay" or some nonsense like that.
I know, but like getting them to explain it at least makes them. getting them to explain it at least forces them to be very specific about what they mean by things. Like even with the whole M3GAN thing.
I'm sorry, but yeah, that was actually. You would actually have to be a fan of the games to understand that reference, but yeah, continue.
It's okay. I don't want to think about Vin Diesel any day of the week, so let alone in a week. But yeah, so like getting them to explain what they mean by that would be very helpful on some levels, just because part of the reason that we're in this kind of situation culturally is because when you say things that there's no one set definition for, or no universally accepted thing, it's hard for people to not applaud stupidity, in some ways, especially if they say the right words or something, the right buzzwords. And like even asking, like Matt Walsh asking, what is a woman, to these people that were not, going to say what a woman was, is very eye-opening, because a lot of these people don't necessarily know what they're talking about sometimes. And they just say the right words and they think they'll be okay because they'll be okay. Nobody questions this stuff. Somebody should start saying, oh, what do you mean by that? Would you explain it to the istophobes in our audience for us?
Oh, man.
I'm starting to think, and I said this in the group chat. I said that, like, based on not just this, but like how, and Cassie knows about this too, how these people say all gender non-conforming people, including cross-dressers or trans. I'm literally, and most of these people that are saying this are like ages 16, sometimes 4. I've seen 14-year-olds up in here saying this kind of crap, to like 24. It's the Zoomers and the Alphas doing this. So I'm just thinking to myself, what is going on? Is there seriously grooming or like gender indoctrination going on if these kids are saying this? And where are the parents? Seriously.
Well, I mean, look, you got libs of TikTok showing one teacher after another, a preschool, kindergarten teacher with rainbow flags and trans flags all over, their classroom and stuff. So these kids have to sit here in these classrooms 5 days a week for 8 hours a day for an 8-month period, learning God knows what's being instilled into their minds. And we're just sitting here letting it happen. And then we wonder why these kids are growing up all screwed up in the head with crap like this. So, I mean, I don't know. This whole, it seems like they know that the numbers aren't on their side, so they're trying to basically claim anyone they possibly can to make it seem like, oh no, we need to increase the representation in movies and television shows because it's not representative enough. Even though you could say that it's massively overrepresented in film and in TV right now. But yeah, this is where we are. So any last thoughts on this one before we move on to our next topic?
As a former teacher, like that just breaks my heart, by the way. I'm sorry. It used to be that you would engage in a dialectic sort of relationship with your students to help them like work their way around to better thinking habits. And now it's like the stupid is teaching the stupid. And I'm like, yes, this is where it's all led. Great. I'm glad I quit teaching.
Yeah. My thoughts on this, and I'm going to make a disclaimer. These are my thoughts only, folks. Basically, anybody who identifies as non-binary, I refuse to acknowledge their existence. Because if you don't have respect for your own existence, for the facts of life, then honestly, you're living in a deluded or a constant state of delusional psychosis, and you need help. And if you're not going to accept yourself for what you are, why should anyone else? Because honestly, I'm so sick and tired of it. Oh, I don't believe I'm this gender. I don't believe I'm that gender. Well, you certainly aren't a fucking chameleon. You certainly aren't a goddamn toad or a lizard. You got one gender you were born with. And honestly, if you can't handle it, maybe you need to seek help. Because that's what these people honestly need. They need help. They shouldn't be enabled. They should honestly be recommended to get psychological help. This actress saying, oh, I feel like I'm gender fluid. Shut your fucking mouth. I don't give a fuck what you identify as. I want to know how your performance is on the screen. I want to be able to review that. That's what I care about. I don't give a shit who you're fucking. I don't give a shit what you do in your private time or your daily life. I care about what you do in front of the screen, how you portray your role, and what you bring to the entertainment industry. What you are and your personal crap, that doesn't matter. And honestly, all that stuff about you saying, how old is this person?
19. I think recently just turned 19.
Well, guess what? Her frontal cortex really isn't that freaking fully developed because, like I said, that doesn't get fully developed until they're 20. So their impulse control is not really fully developed. So of course,
me with that forehead, just saying.
Yeah, something
true. I mean, yeah, she may be big brained. I mean, I don't know what radioactive isotope she's hanging around with. Probably swallowed one for all I know. But all I'm saying is that these people are I said it in the last subject. These people are destroying society, and I'm sick of it.
Well, all I have to say is that all these people who claim that gender is not binary and blah, 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 yeah, gender gets real binary when you punch a bitch in the face. That's all I got to say about that. So let's go ahead and jump in our good buddy for this discussion. We're going to blindside him in. Mr. Rick Aragorn, how you doing tonight? You're muted, by the way, Mr.
Mute
Laugh.
yourself, you boomer.
Boomered it up right out of the gate. Out of the gate, boomered it up.
I'm doing great. I muted myself because I'm in shock. All I come in here and all I hear is something about Vin Diesel in a wig and Rob's OnlyFan account. What do I walk into, people? I'm an innocent, and I come into all this insanity.
We're doing a roundup, a weekly roundup of the clown world.
Yeah,
It's the weekly circus.
Oh my gosh, it's the greatest
chat's
show on
being
earth.
absolutely ruthless tonight. So yeah.
So hey, I love Jimmy Neutron, by the way.
Well, look, let's keep the fire and the hate going right now. So we're gonna talk about Velma next.
Yes. Another gay icon, apparently.
So here's the thing. I talked about Scooby Doo, and I wish what's her name, Trap Queen, Cinnabunny could have joined us here tonight because I actually want to hear her talk about it because I know she's a big Scooby Doo fan as well. But when you talk about Scooby Doo, you're talking about literally fans of this property that have been around for multiple generations. There's fans of Scooby Doo who are like in their 60s, their 50s, their 40s, people who grew up with it in like the 90s and the 80s. Even to this day, they're still major fans of like Scooby Doo. You can go all the way back from the original 60s cartoon to the Scooby Doo, Scrappy Doo series, 13 Ghosts, the pup named Scooby Doo, Monsters Island. Like there's so many Scooby Doo things you can pull out of here. And for the longest time, these activists who cosplay as like film producers and film creators and shit like this, they wanted to do like this whole adult perverted version of Scooby-Doo, and they know that they couldn't do it while the original creators were still alive. While Joe Ruby and Ken Spears, the original creators of the Scooby-Doo series, were still alive, there was no way in hell this was ever going to see the light of day. Well, unfortunately, those guys, because they were in their 80s, passed away, and they'll pass away in the same year too. It was 2020 when both of those guys passed away. So with the original OG creators dead, the ones who can be like, stop saying Velma's a gay icon, that's not what we originally wrote her for, they're out of the way now. So now it was time for Hollywood to do what they wanted to do with the Scooby-Doo franchise. And literally 2 months after the last creator died, this show gets greenlit from HBO Max Velma. This is the Mindy Kaling animated adult Scooby-Doo show. Now keep in mind, it's supposed to be quote unquote for adults, but everyone in the show is like teenage years, which once again, suspect, weird, you can say the least, but this show is getting absolutely ripped apart by everyone, and I mean absolutely everyone. Like, it's bad where even the shill media can't come to the defense of this TV show. You know they want to, but they can't because this show really is just fucking awful. You've probably seen video clips about it circling online. Those are starting to get claimed now, so I'm not going to play any videos, but it's basically You have Shaggy being race swapped as black, and then he's basically just a beta male, typical beta male, getting completely bareened by fucking Velma in the series. Velma being voiced by Mindy Kaling is now Asian with red hair, and I think that was like a whole thing. And Daphne's also Asian with red hair, which doesn't make any sense. They turned Fred into like a Hitler Youth character, and I think now that they spoiled like the next episode, they're bringing quote unquote Scooby in as like a black woman who's gonna date Shaggy. So everything about this show is just a complete abomination, and you know that the original creators never would have co-signed this. But yeah, woke Velma getting savaged by critics, by critics and audiences alike. The lowest rated HBO series on IMDb, and the last time I checked, it had what 6% on Rotten Tomatoes by audiences. So yeah, Netflix, HBO Max's ultra woke Velma series, from the beloved Scooby Doo cartoon, being savaged by everyone with a pair of eyes. It currently has a 1.4 rating on IMDb, which I'm not surprised if it's even lower than that at this point. People who have some of the users who are rated the show says this show literally insults you. I've never seen the show to actively try and make you hate it. This is an abominable, one of the worst things I've ever seen. I can't stand it. It feels like a straight up slap in the face. I cannot stress this enough. It does not have Scooby Doo in it. One outraged IMDb viewer wrote. Other one says, imagine taking a kid's show and turning it into a disgusting college frat house drama where everyone is a bully and vomiting for laughs. This has to be one of the most hate-filled interpretations of a cartoon I've ever seen. This show is one of the worst things I've ever seen. I would give it 0 stars if I could. I can't believe how poorly written this show is, how mean-spirited it is, and how much contempt it has for the source material. There's more on here. It says, jokes become exhausting in the meta, not for kids Scooby-Doo prequel. That's from Richard Roper of the Chicago Tribune. Darren French of the Entertainment Weekly says Velma mostly replaces old Sensible with crass, droopy pointlessness. This is from The Wrap. This says here, you have to wonder in the development of Velma, where did everything go horribly wrong? You can just look at the person who you hired. Then, of course, Critical Drinker has a video on here you can watch on your own time. It says, complete and other trash. Everybody absolutely hates this. And Mindy Kaling thought that people were going to love this because, hey, we finally turned Velma into an LGBTQ icon, right? So keeping that same thing going, she claims that it's an icon for young gay women in the promotion of the series. In New York Comic Con, this is, let me see, just get to the point here. She said that basically saying, why not make the character Indian? We're inspired by Into the Spider-Verse. Thanks, guys. We're seeing these other characters that can embody the spirit of these iconic franchises. Why don't we give that a try? We love Scooby-Doo so much, we're going to honor it. Clearly, you fucking didn't. And then she clearly says there's not a lot of representation of Indian girls in 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s animation. What the fuck does that have to do with the show? And then, so what about I love about the character is that she's the closest that we can see a smart A student, thick glasses that are always filing off and skeptical. A lot of these amazing qualities. So as a kid watching the reruns of the original Scooby-Doo, I felt like, man, I really identify with this character. I love that she exists. She's not traditionally gorgeous or anything. She just helps the game because she's so smart. And there's somewhere here she talks about Velma being like a lesbian because that is in the show as well. There's so much fucking wrong with this show, and to me, the most disgusting part of this shit, like I said, you waited till the creators to die so you can pretty much shit all over their legacy and shit all over their creation to produce this show. Literally months after they died, you greenlit this garbage, and now you're trying to claim, oh, it's getting review bomb. No, your show fucking sucks. That's exactly what it is. Rick, you've been waiting online for a while, so I'm gonna let you go first. What do you think about Mindy Kaling and the people at Hulu or HBO Max, whoever greenlit this shit, crapping on the legacy of the Scooby-Doo creators?
Okay. Well, I've thought about this, and I asked the same question that I've asked when we've had remakes or reimaginings or whatever. Who is the target audience? Who is this made for? Is it made for the longtime Scooby-Doo fans? No, because what they're getting is a radical change in not just their appearance, but in their personalities. Velma was smart. She wasn't mean spirited. She would never do what she did to Fred and I've seen the clip where she's like saying he's too stupid. He wouldn't know how to cut his own meat. Daphne is a pleasant person. She's not this bitch with lesbian parents. Um, Shaggy, I mean, it's always, I guess, understood that he was always a little bit high, but he wasn't this beta male forever pining for Velma. And now the idea that they're going to have Scooby Doo be a black woman or black, I mean, what are they thinking? That's just beyond asinine. So I have to ask, who is this made for? It's not made for the longtime Scooby Doo fans who are seeing everything that they loved about the series changed and destroyed. They're not going to win over fans because the writing itself creates all of these awful characters who are mean spirited and just awful. They're just terrible to each other. So who's the audience? I think the audience is for people like Mindy Kaling, who apparently has this long time anger, hatred, resentment, bitterness against what has come before, and now she's in a position where she can rewrite or, in her mind, improve things. There is no way that you can create the characters that you have with Norville and Fred, Velma, Daphne, and say that you're honoring them and that you're making something positive. What you have is just someone who is so filled with this private rage that now she's able to vent it and just explode and just destroy something that need not be destroyed. Scooby Doo is harmless, frivolous fun, and all these people who are taking this property and destroying it for their own sense of vengeance, I feel genuinely sad for them. This is something that I always ask any creative person: who is your target audience? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to change people's opinion of something, or are you trying to create something that's going to be positive? It looks like Mindy Kaling just is just filled with a lot of resentment and anger, not having Indian representation. Hey, I didn't have a lot of representation on television. I mean, what, Dora the Explorer? That was a lot. I mean, I was satisfied with that.
The Three Amigos.
Speedy Gonzalez.
The Three Amigos were all white. All right.
I know, that was a joke.
Yeah. Diego?
By the way, I just wanted to answer this question real quick by Neo. Anyone who thinks that is a fucking moron. So, yeah, that's the answer to my question. So,
but they're in denial.
It's curious, though, that I think I sent this out to some of you guys. Scott Mendelson, no right winger, or no one who's anywhere near on the right, I think he said that this would be a parody of what right wingers think left wingers are all about. Yeah. When it comes so if someone very much on the left thinks that this is awful, just imagine what just the average person who's not even politically involved would look at this. Again, always think, who is your target audience? That's what I keep going back to.
The target audience is the person who wrote this. Like, this is for Mindy Kaling. She's the only person who appeals to this show at all.
Exactly.
You also got the hack SNL writer that's working on this too.
They're all hack writers. If you work for SNL, you're a hack.
It's just an absolute shame that they have to do this. There's no reason to do this. I think a lot of people would enjoy watching a Scooby Doo origin story, or how the Mystery Machine came about.
Yeah.
But to do all this but look, we knew what we were getting, or people who were going to watch this should have known what they were getting when they saw the trailer, where Velma, and that's Mindy Kaling, where she was very snarky about all these people who were as Velma, like all these people who changed the race of a character. Jinkies and all this. I mean, she was just being mean-spirited right from the get-go. Yeah. So this is not a surprise. But
and keep in mind, the one thing you have to understand about the mentality of these people is that they write these characters to be the protagonists. So in their minds, these characters are actually likable. So yeah, you have to understand, like they expect that people, like the way that they wrote Velma in this series, that people were gonna identify with her and love her, even though she's come off as nothing more than a hateful bitch throughout the entire series. But this is how screwed up in the head these people are. They don't even get that. Maybe this isn't the best way to portray this character we actually want people to like.
Exactly. It's just a shame, and I'll take issue with that, with her idea that, oh, Into the Spider-Verse, gave you carte blanche to change Velma into an Indian lesbian, because again, the world is filled with Indian lesbians running around.
Yeah.
Look, Miles Morales was his own thing, and he has existed for what, at least 10 years. It's not something original,
Right.
and that's radically different. That's radically different than what they did with Velma, and it's a shame. I've never seen people go so. I mean, we've seen people go out of their way to change things, but this just seems to be a new low, where people who are fans of the original and who are not fans of the original, from all political sides, right, left, just dismisses. And it's about time. This is my last point here. It's about time people stop blaming, quote, review bombing. At a certain point, you have to take responsibility for what you wrote, and you have to take responsibility to say, you wrote a bad story, you wrote a bad series. Stop blaming review bombs. Stop blaming toxic fandom. It's not them. It's you. All right. You are the problem, not the fans, not those review bombs. Because trust me, Scott Mendelson is probably one of the people who would be shilling for you, but even he thinks this is way too much. So there. That's it. That's my whole point.
Something I have to point out that I think is absolutely hilarious is these same people that keep attacking anime girls and saying and calling weeboos and otakus pedos. They've never said anything about sexualizing characters in Western cartoons until now. I wonder why. No, nothing with Owl House, nothing with the other fuckery we've seen. Nah, they're just doing it now.
Keep in mind, like I said, the characters in this show are supposed to be teenage age as well, which is very suspect. Cassie, I know you did a couple videos revealing Velma this week, so just your thoughts on Mindy Kaling as a person in this entire show.
So, I mean, I just refused outright to watch this shit. Honestly, I'm just here for the mocking and the shaming, because that's all this series deserves. Honestly,
more caffeine. It's an all-night job.
Yeah, exactly. Like, honestly, I think it's absolutely fucking heinous to literally wait till the creators die and then right after that greenlight this hot steaming pile of shit that I'm sure that they would have fought to not have happened. It's sad. Like, honestly, it makes me sad because you've made perverse a cartoon that I used to watch with my grandfather as a little kid. And you've managed to make it disgusting, gross, everything that Scooby Doo isn't. And given, there's always been like little hints about like Shaggy being like an addict of some sort, and with him and Scooby having the munchies and all that. But it's never something that a child would ever pick up on. And for you to take a kid's cartoon and make it this blatantly perverse. And it's like, it's one thing, like, I guess maybe making like an adult version of a cartoon that's for kids for something that's been like abandoned for a long time. Like, I think the whole slasher thing with Winnie the Pooh is actually entertaining because what fucking kid is watching and paying attention to Winnie the Pooh in modern day? It's kind of been like Winnie the Pooh's kind of been dead and not really spoken about. Like Scooby Doo, for example, has been pretty relevant throughout my entire lifetime. There's been even after I stopped watching, like the last string of like Scooby Doo stuff that I really liked as a young adult was when they did those last string of movies in like the late 90s and early 2000s. Like those were actually genuinely good. And for the quality of this IP to become this Velma show that is an embarrassment to the IP, it doesn't represent it in any way. You completely bastardized Velma as a character, as well as all the other characters. And apparently, I'm hearing that Scooby is a woman a black woman, like, in that.
Might be a black trans woman. That might be another twist into the whole story.
I got something to say on that.
Yeah, that's her. That's like just horrific, man. Like, and then this dumb bitch, Mindy, whatever the fuck her name is, she's actually going to lie and say that she relates to Velma, someone that's, you know, intelligent, the smart one of the crew. No, you are a moron. You in no way represent Velma. That's why you had to. That you can't relate to her in any way. That's why you had to literally change her character down to her fucking skin tone, down to the way her character acts, just to make that so for you. These people are absolutely mentally deranged. They're incapable of making anything unique on their own front. They must take other people's achievements and destroy them with their own ideology. They're the worst of our society. Honestly, people like this are worthless as far as I'm concerned. And whenever they put out a pile of shit like this, it only proves it.
Go ahead, Orange.
Is it confirmed that they're making Scooby Doo a black woman?
No, that rumor was debunked actually.
Okay, because if it was true, then Mindy Kaling is one of the most racist and inhuman pieces of shit out there. Because
might still be true. I mean, that is not.
Well,
you know.
yeah, but even if it was, or if it was true, it is reflective of what she thinks of black women. It's like you fucking view black women as dogs. What the fuck is wrong with you? That is the kind of thing that would piss me off. It's not the fact, or I'm not saying that I'm outraged for anybody. I'm outraged as a human being because as Cassie said, this woman had to change every aspect of Velma in order to identify with her. That means that this woman wasn't a fan of Velma or Scooby Doo or anything. A fan does not seek to change what the product is.
Yeah.
A fan enjoys the product as it is. I have gotten into this thing with Tolkien and other franchises and everything else. You do not seek to change what you claim to be a fan of, because if you are a fan of it, you are accepting it as it is, as the original authors intended. The fact that they waited 2 months after the last owner of this property died.
Yeah, Ken Spears was the last one. Yeah,
Ken Spears.
Just real quick. Ken Spears died November 6th, 2020. 2020, and then they greenlit the show about 60 days later. So,
I mean, I wish that people who own franchises or own properties nowadays would actually write in their will, I do not want the rights of my product to be released upon my death. And if there is no choice in the matter, I want it to be released at a time or in the hands of somebody who is competent. If Mindy Kaling, I'm not going to watch this Velma show. First off, Velma to me will always be the heterosexual nerd that was white with freckles and shit, and was because kind of I actually identified with her in a way when I was younger. I'm a freaking nerd.
Yep.
And I wore glasses when I was younger and whatnot. So it's like, yeah, she's pretty cool because she's the one freaking solving the damn crimes and whatnot.
But when you were watching Scooby Doo, the original series from the 1960s, I was sitting back thinking, you know what? There's not enough American Indian women on this show. That's exactly the thought that came out. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody thought about that shit. And it's like, these are a bunch of freaking teenagers that are in high school that are kind of getting high. I mean, look at Shaggy. He's freaking doping up almost. No wonder he's always hungry and wants Scooby snacks. The dude's higher than the kite. But everybody else is like Thing is, he's good bait, but he also does have a good notion every now and then. And it's just beyond me that they would allow anybody to make this travesty. I mean, and they greenlit season 2. And I'm like,
well, I've heard rumors about season 2 possibly being greenlit. I have not heard that confirmation yet, but I would be very shocked if this gets a season 2, especially with the way that the reaction is to it. Everyone despises this, so if they were to greenlight this is basically Warner Brothers Discovery telling the audience that we totally endorse this, and we're going to get more.
They did that already with Batwoman. So are you really going to be that shocked?
I mean, not if these the new guys are showing up now, claiming that they want to change the culture.
If Zaslav Zaslav for a while proved to be semi-competent until there was some weird power play that totally fucked up Marvel and Warner Brothers, or DC and Warner Brothers, excuse me.
Yeah, and to be fair, this was greenlit before Zaslav got out there, so this was already in a camp before he showed up. But like I said, I have a very
Zaslav
hard
should have
time
came in and said, "What the hell is this shit?" No.
Yeah.
Imagine how much stuff, and I'm not trying to defend Zaslav, but imagine how much stuff is already like that he's already had to look through to judge whether it's good or not.
This is why I have kind of a hard time like slamming Zaslav to a certain degree, because you have to understand, like, he inherited just a complete mess at Warner Brothers. Like, this is something you're now seeing why this company was billions of dollars in debt, and I believe are still like $50 billion in debt right now, because this is the content that they've been producing for years. Like, you come in, you have to deal with this fire, then you have to deal with the Ezra Miller fire, which we'll talk about here in a second. Then you have to completely reboot all of your whole DC movies going forward. You got to deal with CNN. You got to deal with TBS and TNT. Like, there's so many fires that he has to put out here. It's like, I can't really blame him for not putting out all of them at once, but it just goes to show you what a complete mess Warner Brothers was before AT&T sold it to Discovery. Like, this thing is a complete dumpster fire from start to finish, and it tells you exactly why Hollywood is dying at the rapid rate that it's doing right now. So, any final thoughts here before we move on?
Dying, it's dead.
I was going to do this too. It also explains why they're attacking Japan nonstop, because Japan's the last bastion.
Because they don't want competition.
Unfortunately, Japan's even giving in to the wokeness.
Yep.
Well,
I'm covering a story for Bounding that covers that. Apparently, having animal ears and a tail is automatically bestiality.
Well, sorry. Okay, so like from a writing perspective, okay, because I'm a writer, that's what I do. One of the first things that I learned when I started writing was that stories are often used in like narrative therapy for people, for especially like damaged people, to make sense of the trauma that they've endured, right?
Yeah.
So most of the stuff just makes me sad. Like, it's not really funny, and it's not really, I mean, like, somewhat on some level it's kind of funny. It's like, why would you do this terrible thing? It's so awful. But it's also like these are damaged people that are like reaching into this nostalgic, idealistic childhood, grabbing this fracture of joy that they must have had at this one point in moment in their life, and then they're remaking it in the image of their damaged selves. And it's like, of course they hate Japan, because Japanese people know you at least have to put on an acceptable front for society. We don't have competent writers anymore, because we don't have people that are able to heal from their trauma. Like, their trauma has to become their identity. And you never can let that go, or you risk becoming something that other people know you're not. Like, even Rob posted on Twitter earlier that quote from his book that he's reading, right? You have to tell, the world will ask you who you are, and then it'll tell you, right?
Yeah. If you don't know who you are, the world will tell you. Basically, it's like you have to know what your principles are, what you believe in, all that stuff, or else the world will tell you exactly who you are.
Yeah, that was a quote from the book.
I disagree to an extent with what you're saying. Yes, because sometimes trauma could be like the greatest strength to a writing. But I do agree with the fact that you're saying that they're making their trauma their identity, and that's the problem, where it could be a therapeutic kind of thing in a very creative way. They're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, at this point, it's not really even that creative because, you know, I mean, like we all kind of like the other thing that, like, if you look at the evolution of Scooby Doo, and I have seen like the original, you know, Where Are You, Scooby, or Scooby Doo, Where Are You? You know, the new Scooby Doo movies. I grew up with a pup named Scooby Doo, which I actually bought for my kids, and I was telling them in the chat I really like it still. And
yeah, it's Red Herring's fault, by the way, for Velma. And let's be real.
I hope he doesn't show up. But and then you have Scooby Doo and Zombie Island. You had all those the movies that came out in the early aughts and the late 90s and stuff. So you've had these incarnations of Scooby Doo's over several decades worth of generations. And if you look at like the latest one before this was Mystery Incorporated, they actually had Velma as kind of like this snarky, almost bitter kind of figure. Uh-oh. Okay. Sorry. So and people, it's kind of like the Marvel humor thing that, oh, people like that she's making these snarky comments. And so you could kind of see that she's been like reinterpreted as this insanely snarky woman. And like, I think snark is funny once in a while. Like, it's always funny in the beginning, but it gets old really quick. And what do you have to move on from snark? And it's sincerity. And as I was talking, like, these people cannot be sincere because they've detached themselves from reality to the point where that will not work for them. That's not who they are anymore. They can't be that person in real life. So yes, buy my stuff instead. Thank you.
And I have no relationship with Velma or Scooby Doo other than, you know, it's like I kind of got stuck watching them when I probably was older than I feel like it should have been. But I want to say what CS just said about like these people have no ideas. The people that are writing now, okay, artists used to be able to detach themselves from the stuff they worked on and use metaphor and use subtlety and use all the skill sets of a writer to sort of, but still utilizing their experience and what they had gone through in their lives. These people have no idea how to do that. And these are inherently victim or grievance politics oriented writing pieces. They're like, look at my pain, look at what I have to endure. And it's all going in the wrong direction. So that's what I'll say is, like, I won't watch this show because it just sounds like vomit, you know, verbal and written vomit. So I hope it fails. But I just hope for good shows and good writing going forward. I hope they're out there.
Well, we hope. I mean, not with these people who are in charge right now. They only care about using television and films to insert propaganda for the masses. This is all. I mean, there's so many things that I could say about this that I probably have already said, but like I said, this is just absolutely disgusting in my eyes. And this is why I say it's more important now than ever. Protect your IPs, even in death. Protect your IPs, because these people are vultures who are waiting for you to drop dead so they can pick the bones off of what you created and bastardize it to a degree that we haven't seen in human history.
Just real quick, any Indian American woman who sees Velma, I would be surprised that she felt, oh, I can relate to this character, this mean, snarky, angry woman, or any half Asian woman that Daphne's now apparently supposed to be.
Yeah.
Or I don't know why they think that they're making diversity. Diversity has to be more than just the exterior, the physical appearance. You can't just say, oh, we're going to have an Indian woman and suddenly all Indians are going to relate to us. That's an absurdity. It has to be more than that. It has to be the kind of person that you are, not what you look like. That's just my 2 cents there on poor Velma. She suffered enough. You see, this is what happens when you move away from Mama Cass.
And the Harlem Globetrotters. Don't
And the
forget the
Harlem
Globetrotters as
Globetrotters,
well.
yeah.
Well, from one dirtbag to another, let's go ahead and jump into our boy Ezra Miller here, because Ezra Miller found the way to duck jail time over a recent robbery up in, I believe, is Vermont. So we talked about at one point. It feels like we were almost talking about Ezra Miller like every single week. There was like a 5 or 6 week stretch there where there was always an update to this story, and it's been a while. It seems like somebody at Warner Brothers Discovery has taken Ezra Miller and hid him somewhere in like a cave or in a mansion and has not let him out since, and probably are not going to let him out until after this Flash movie comes out. But yeah, it looks like Ezra Miller avoided jail time from a robbery in Vermont, actually. So he accepted a guilty plea. Per the official press release, the Vermont State Police, who arrested Miller back on May 1st in 2022, was notified of the burglary complaint against him. I believe he was originally, it says right here, the initial findings indicated that several bottles of alcohol were taken from within the residence from the homeowners who were not present at the time. As a result, an investigation that included several surveillance videos and statements found probable cause to charge Miller in the offense of felony burglary for an unoccupied dwelling. Miller appeared in front of the Virginia Superior Court back in October, pled not guilty. Burglary, like I said, I already announced the charge here. 2 charges carried a maximum penalty of 26 years behind bars with over $2,000 in fines. Now, we all know he wasn't going to do 26 years for this, but we were expecting some kind of punishment here, but that doesn't seem to be the case because the judge in the case has offered a deal by the Vermont State Attorney's Office, allowing Miller to plead guilty for a lesser charge of trespassing with a reduced sentence of just $500 in fine and 1 year of administrative probation. So, as part of the plea agreement here, the state will dismiss without prejudice counts 1 and 2 of burglary and penitent larceny. The judge explains that you'll be on administrative probation for 1 year for unlawful trespass, and you'll be pleading guilty to. If you complete that probation successfully, the probation is closed and discharged. 1 count will remain dismissed. However, if there's a violation of the probation that was filed that the court has found probable cause for, the state could refile the count 1 burglary. And the conditions about mental health and substance free living with no contact with the person who he robbed in case. So yeah, essentially they're letting him off here with a fine. They're letting him off here with probation with the threat that if he screws up again somewhere in the next year or so, those charges could be brought back. But right now it looks like Mr. Miller is going to have plenty enough time to promote his new movie, which is coming out this summer, The Flash, which they're still protecting. I know there was a lot of talk about a week or 2 ago about there's rumors within inside of Warner Brothers that some of the executives may be actually considering keeping Miller on for more projects in the future. I think most people pretty much believe that they were at least going to keep him on for this movie and then dump him after the fact. But maybe there's some people out there that thinks, oh no, we should give him a 3rd and an 8th and a 12th chance, because this ain't his 2nd chance by any stretch of the imagination. Orange Hat, I know you want to talk about this story. What do you think about Ezra Miller getting probation for his felony theft?
Well, hold on, wait 1 second. Yeah, Frank, it's me. Yeah, Ezra Miller, that's right. Do your worst. As for Ezra Miller getting a slap on the wrist, well, everybody knows it's a travesty. This dude has, I mean, he freaked Iceland video showing him choking out a woman.
Yeah. Iceland, Hawaii,
police
Florida,
reports all over Hawaii. Dozens of police reports from March to April of that year. Freaking complaints in Berlin and England. Restraining orders from families and whatnot. And did they say that his attorneys came up with this plea deal, or did the prosecution come up with it?
I believe it was the state who presented this, so this would have been the attorney's office. Yeah.
Why on earth would the state present a case for or a plea deal when you have all the evidence you need to convict? You have the video of him entering the premises and leaving the premises with the alcohol. This is what's known as a slam dunk case. This is what's known as you would get your ass full of notoriety for putting away a person who does need a lot of help. And allegedly he did all the grooming. You have to say allegedly legally, because you can be sued if you continue to, or because people can be sued if they continue to say that he purposefully did it.
If they continue.
I don't respect that. That isn't a hate crime. That is me sticking to my belief system. He is, as far as I know now, guilty of trespassing. Well, I put on Twitter, I hope he fucks up. He needs to be put in prison for 90 days or for longer even, because prison is the only way that this person is going to learn accountability. That is the problem with our society today. That prison or people are not being held to full account. And they have learned because of this that the law, or that they can get away with pretty much anything. I'm pretty sure that if Ezra Miller raped a child, he would get away with it.
Well,
and yes, as disgusting and heinous as that sounds, that's what's known as rich freaking celebrity privilege. That is what this is the biggest case of. And honestly, I am sick and tired of it. If it was up to me, celebrities would be held to a higher level of account. If a normal person like the average Joe, like you or me, would get 5 years for whatever crime, they should get 7.5 to 10 years. Because honestly, they think throwing money is going, or at the problem is going to make it go away. Then they should be made to understand that's not going to fly. You are a more influential person than everybody else. Your actions matter more. So yeah, I think that this account, or that there's no justice here. There is no justice that happened in the case of Ezra Miller. What this freak, he is a freak because he acts in a freakish manner. I'm using that by the definition. So nobody, or come at me all you want. But this person acted a fool and he got away with it. And if they're saying, well, he's getting the help he needs, show us. I want you to actually prove it and show us the stuff he is getting or doing to be, or to prove to us that he is indeed getting help. Not to mention, I want to be able to, or if they're showing his video, his movie in theaters, I'm not going to review it. And I encourage everybody to boycott the hell out of that movie. And I'm sorry if certain people who own private theaters and small town theaters hate me for it, because I do believe that you should support your small town theaters. But even small town theaters should take a stand. No, we will not, or this is a movie we're willing to skip, because this is only enabling a criminal and supporting a criminal. Sorry, but the people in Hollywood need to be held to account. And that's my view on it.
I gotta bring this up again because of what Orange Hat says here. There's this double freaking standard going on. The same people that are like going after people that draw anime characters or manga characters, or in the case of the whole thing with Velma, just cartoon characters, they're getting attacked and getting called pedophilic. And yet Ezra is getting a pass. You aren't, I know the majority of people are calling him like a pedo and shit like that, but this is one of those situations where the legal system needs to do their thing. It's different with drawn stuff. Yes, it could be sus all you want, sure, but when it's a real life like this, it's, come on. You don't have no First Amendment right on that.
Shout out to our buddy all the way joining us from Israel, Miss Fisto. How you doing tonight? Yeah, I don't know. It's just infuriating. I mean, it's clear that they're trying to protect their investment. So I don't know how long they plan on putting up with Ezra Miller at this point, but this is something that's gonna go on for at least another few months until they're in a position where they can dump this guy, and hopefully there's nobody in a position of power that's actually stupid enough to think that somehow we can salvage this Ezra Miller project. It's not gonna happen. Any thoughts you guys have on this before we go on to our next topic here?
So, like, there's this episode of Futurama
No, boy, here we go.
where the professor hires Zap Brannigan as like to join the ship, and he says, as long as we have him on staff, nobody will notice all the laws that we're breaking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh. I look at this and I'm like, oh my gosh, this must just be the tip of the iceberg.
Or it's kind of like South Park in episode 200 and 201, which they tried to get, the power of Muhammad.
Oh my!
And I find it very interesting that we're settling a case here of the burglary, which seems to be, even on its face value, seems to be the lesser of the things that Ezra has been accused of over the last year and a half. Just the fact that he stole some bottles of alcohol from a home that people weren't in at the time. I mean, there's been some more salacious stuff, like, the alleged cult that he's been raising on his property over the last few years. The fact that he's thrown chairs at women, at binary women. The fact that he's like choked women out on the street. Seems to have a very interesting little past with women there. It seems to be a kind of thing. I know you want to choke a bitch every now and then, Cassie, but what do you think about this story?
Honestly, that's a great point, because I was thinking the same thing myself. It's like he's getting off on like the most minor of things he's been accused of, and there seems to be a lot of merit to a lot of the things that he's been accused of from what I've seen. And this is a lot of different privileges, rich privilege, just the fact that he's well known, privilege of being famous. The privilege of having a large conglomerate such as Warner Brothers behind you. And also the reality that there is privilege to being a part of the LGBTQ plus whatever community. I think that's fair to say at this point. I think that this person has gotten away with a lot of things, purposely and intentionally using the whole pronoun situation to be aggressive, to be delusional, to live in his own little delusional lifestyle that does not translate to the real world. And honestly, they're saying like, oh, if he's clean for a year, then we can look past all. He's not gonna. He's gonna f up. I think that this dude's a magnet to fuck ups. Like it's just gonna happen. And guess what? They're gonna continue to just kick the can down the road. I won't support anything in regards to anything that he does. It's pretty easy to avoid a lot of the crocks of shit that come out in Hollywood anyway. But just the fact that this is genuinely a terrible human being from what I've seen. And the fact that he's being treated with kid gloves just because he has, a lot of things going on his side it makes me feel like there is indeed a class system where I get lower and lower and lower and lower in this country.
Yeah, well, I'm just amazed that they're going through all of this to save this individual, and they see him as a marquee name for their film series, when they dump people who are actually popular and well liked. We've already talked in the past about Henry Cavill, and they dumped him. Gal Gadot, and they're keeping Ezra Miller, and they're not doing much with Zachary Levi, who by all accounts is actually a pretty nice guy and has actually been talking about his ill father, but they're willing to move heaven and earth to keep Ezra Miller and to keep the Flash going, as if he's going to be the big star of their upcoming film series, which is already facing a lot of trouble. The DC extended universe. I'm just puzzled as to why why the studio seems to be so obsessed with keeping him going. Most other situations, he would have been fired immediately and replaced immediately. It would not have been a major loss.
Well,
but
to
yet
your point, just real quick, I just
Yes.
wanted to say this here now, is that it even seems more ridiculous now that we've already confirmed that James Gunn, in one way or another, is going to end up rebooting this entire DC universe anyway. So there's really no need for this film to even exist, because you've already said that everything that happens basically this year in the DCEU doesn't matter because it's all getting rebooted. So the whole argument that's like, well, we have $300 million invested into this movie now, we have to release it somehow. But it's like, do you really have to? I mean, you're already $50 billion in debt. What's another $300 million on top of that at this point, just to eat this movie and say like, yeah, you know what, we're done with this guy, we're just gonna move forward entirely.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the
and
reports,
even then, what's his career afterwards?
Jail. Some form.
Go ahead.
no,
Sorry.
but yeah, if you look at the reports of like his interactions with the women that he's assaulted, or that he like just it's just like he comes off like an unstable sociopathic individual who, like, it's only a matter of time before he has one of these incidents again. So it's just like, I have no idea what kind of blackmail materials he has on some of those Warner Brothers executives, because what other reason would you have? This Flash movie, it's like, are they gambling on it to fail? Is that their logic? Because at this point, I really don't know, other than like a producer's type of setup where they're gambling on this movie failing, and that's why they're I don't know, because there's only a matter of time before he does it again and is back in front of a judge.
Like I said, I've called it for the very beginning. I think what they're going to do is they're going to wait a few more months, keep him out of the headlines. Then around, like, I'd say June, around the time that this movie is actually supposed to come out, you'll get the Ezra Miller Good Morning America interview where he sits down with one of those hacks on the show and talks about, I was in a bad place a few months ago and blah, 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 and yada, yada. And be like, I'm a much better person now, only so they can promote this movie for a few weeks and then like slowly let him go. If they actually try to go full rehab and be like, let's keep Ezra around after this movie, they're fucking idiots and they deserve exactly what happens next. So that's pretty much that story. But I do want to bring this little story up because this kind of plays into what we were talking about here. Have you guys noticed over the last few weeks there's been a lot of negative stories regarding Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson that have been reported by certain outlets, particularly Variety and Deadline have really come out with a lot of articles saying that, The Rock's been problematic behavior led to his downfall in DC, saying that, he's a mega diva, he's trying to get things his own way. And I felt like, okay, there's clearly something going on here where they're trying to, I guess, slander him publicly to try to like hurt his image. What is the reason for this? I think we may have found out the reason behind of this recent smear campaign behind The Rock, because insiders are claiming that The Rock may have destroyed his plans for DC supremacy by secretly meeting with David Zaslav, the head of Warner Brothers Discovery, and that ruffled a lot of feathers internally. So this is a Bounding in the Comics article. As we all know, Dwayne Johnson for years have tried to use the Black Adam franchise as his, launching point into the DCEU. He obviously wanted to do a DC movie with Henry Cavill as Superman, do a Superman versus Black Adam film. He wanted to be in other projects. His production company, I believe $7, has a lot of Warner Brothers projects in the helm as well. So this is something that he's been working on for a long time. But with with Warner Brothers sale to Discovery and David Zaslav coming in, making all the changes, and now James Gunn in charge, all of Dwayne Johnson's plans pretty much blew up in his face. He's no longer a part of the whole thing, and the Black Adam movie is just going to be a one-off. They're not going to use him any way, shape, or form moving forward. But once again, we have another Variety source here saying that Dwayne Johnson held an impromptu meeting that went over a few of the heads of the executives at Warner Brothers and made other demands that ruffled feathers internally, which is probably why you're seeing a lot of leaked stories going to Variety that are slamming Dwayne Johnson. But apparently he had discussions with David Zaslav about Black Adam's future in the middle of other studio executives losing their jobs. Dwayne went around everyone that didn't sit well, according to the source. Says not long after Warner Brothers Discovery merger closed in April, Johnson directly pitched to CEO David Zaslav on a multi-year plan for Black Adam and Henry Cavill as Superman, which included where the two properties were intervened, setting up a future movie. He clearly tried to do this with the Black Adam movie itself, where you had Henry Cavill do the cameo at the very end of the film. So this is all part of his plan, but obviously Zaslav didn't go along with it. He put James Gunn in charge, and now James Gunn's blowing the whole thing up. Yeah, I said multiple sources here confirmed that the meeting took place. Some downplayed any discussion of Black Adam's future. It says here that the film obviously didn't do a big box office success. It only grossed about $391 million globally on a budget of $195 million, which means that it didn't break even. It didn't lose a whole lot of money, but it lost nothing as a DC superhero movie that obviously didn't sit well with people. So let's put it this way: The Rock clearly doesn't have very many fans in the world of DC's executive board. There's rumors right now that The Rock is planning on heading back to pro wrestling here in the next few weeks. There's been rumor he's going to be involved in WrestleMania, perhaps a match with Roman Reigns. He also has the upcoming relaunch of the XFL going on as well. So it looks like he's trying to get back into other ventures at the moment, because his movie career seems like there's some people working against him at the moment as far as that goes. I'll start with Rob here. What do you think of the DC executives having an out for Mr. Dwayne Johnson for daring to go over their heads?
I mean, it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, this is a town where it's like the smallest slight can get you, kicked out of a room or, put on a list or something. But I don't know. I feel like this is Dwayne The Rock Johnson wanting more control over his career and wanting to sort of direct, because he had been wanting to do a Black Adam movie for years, for a long time. It was in development. And so you could understand maybe some of his impatience or lack of history as being a producer, or at least being as heavy-handed as you, because when you start going above people and having meetings and kind of off the books and stuff, it's sort of frowned upon. Let's just put it that way. So I'm not surprised, but also Black Adam didn't generate enough to sort of say, hey, we can't deny that there's a market for this. We don't have the argument that this isn't profitable, but it didn't do as well as certainly The Rock hoped. And who knows where he goes from here in the DCU. So he might be out.
No, I think he's definitely out at this point, which is funny that he's out, Henry's out, Gal's out, but Ezra Miller's still in there. So, Rick, what do you think about this story here?
Well, from what I see, Dwayne Johnson put his own interests ahead, and I don't see anything wrong with that. If he wants to have private impromptu meetings where he talks about, trying to talk about his own career, his own future in this franchise, that he's going to be motivated by his own interests. What I don't see anything wrong with that. And all the other people who are very upset and are leaking stories to try to portray him as a bad person. These are the same people who, again, are defending Ezra Miller and moving heaven and earth to protect him. I don't understand. I mean, whatever Dwayne Johnson's flaws are as an actor or as a person, he has been probably far more likable than Ezra Miller and is a bigger name than Ezra Miller. So I'm just perplexed as to why they're doing both of these things. I don't see anything wrong with him saying, "Oh, I'm going to have a meeting with the head man and try to promote my own career and put my future in this film franchise ahead of some junior executive whom that I had to go over." I'm used to going over people's heads. I will take control. I mean, didn't he try to take control from in the Fast and Furious franchise where it was going to be him? He was going to be like the main person and not Vin Diesel. I'm perplexed why people
him and Vin Diesel butted heads, but it is notorious that Vin Diesel has a massive ego too. So that's probably had more to do with it than
Yeah, I'm just perplexed as to why all these people are so upset. I mean, it doesn't really affect them, or at least I don't think it should. So this is a strange story for me, and if they're going to go out of their way to destroy the Rock's or Dwayne Johnson's cinema career, but are trying to everything in their power to save Ezra Miller, these priorities are so insane, just so whacked out. I don't understand any of the thinking behind any of this. That's pretty much my quick view. I have nothing else to add as far as I can tell.
I mean, I was just thinking about this real quick. Like Rick will back me up on this. That back in the day, like stars used to go all the time into the head of the studio to sort of, sort out a problem or to talk about something. Or, I mean, well, granted, it was more the screenwriter or the director doing that, because they were making the picture. But it's just like you have people in Hollywood who, are very sensitive and are easily hurt. their feelings and their sensitivity gets bruised.
Oh yeah, especially I mean at MGM, we've heard stories about people like Crawford and Robert Taylor, and Judy Garland, all of these people who would go up to Mayer or Thalberg and pitch their cases, and sometimes they got their way, sometimes they didn't. Same with Warner Brothers. Betty Davis also would sometimes literally storm into the office and be just very belligerent toward Jack Warner to get her way. So yeah, he's kind of a throwback to that. He didn't see any need to go to junior executives who were probably not going to do anything for him. And again, I'm just thoroughly perplexed as to why all of these people are just so upset and angry and are deciding we're going to try to dethrone or just remove Dwayne Johnson and have him go to wrestling or what have you. I don't understand the thinking behind it. I think it's a case of what's the expression, cutting your nose to spite your face.
Yeah,
I don't understand. I don't understand the whole motivation for it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it all seems like internal pettiness that, especially these guys, like, how dare The Rock go over our heads and try to negotiate with the big boss who's coming in as we're getting fired. It's like, that sounds like a bunch of fucking sour grapes, like, to me. It's like, it seems like he knew that the guy who was going to be in charge, he tried to negotiate a new direction or try to negotiate the direction he had went with the previous bosses to the new boss, and some of you guys got butthurt over it. And now that happened, all these stories you're hearing from Variety, because Variety has written like 90% of these stories, so one of these executives is leaking all these stories directly to Variety, just bitching about The Rock. It's like, maybe you guys need to fucking get over yourselves with all the shit that's going on there right now. And like I said, you guys got your wish. Now The Rock is out and pretty much everyone else is out. Then no one seems to know or exactly be too excited about what the future of DC holds now. So congratulations.
Yeah, well, he's been like a top actor in general too, like not just one of the bigger names in the DCU or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think that he and Tom Cruise, I think, are supposed to be like the last, and maybe Chris Pratt, half of Chris Pratt, like the last surviving so-called movie stars that can kind of sell a film based on their name. And
Yeah.
he's definitely got a target on his back. I mean, when you're at the top, people below you want you to fall. And I actually think in our group chat, I posted the speech that Green Goblin gives Spider-Man about people love the hero, but they love to see the hero fall. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that Variety has just got the sharks swimming in waters.
Yeah, there's a lot of
To a
sharks
degree,
swimming
anyway.
right now.
The way I see it is that Warner Brothers is continuously shooting themselves in the foot that they don't even have any feet left. I
It's a nub.
mean, they have constantly made bad decisions. One, they're keeping Amber Heard in Aquaman 2, so that movie's going to be boycotted. Two, they're still throwing support behind Ezra Miller, so that movie's going to be boycotted. They brought back Henry Cavill only to freaking fire him to the point where he actually called them out for it, but did it with grace. And The Rock set up a project that would guarantee even some boycotters would actually freaking come back to actually say, okay, we'd watch this.
Yeah.
And Warner Brothers basically canned The Rock for that and shut down anything that he's planned. They hired James Gunn, who has some of the most disgusting personality that is on the internet today, and throws some very suspect parties at his house, theme-wise. It's like, you guys have the biggest image problem because, one, you are endorsing criminal behavior when you throw support behind these individuals. You are literally, when you say, we're going to keep Amber Heard in the movie and support her role and whatnot, you are saying we support spousal abuse. We support domestic violence. We support lying and falsely accusing people of rape. That is what they are saying when they keep her on. When they keep Ezra Miller and defend him, we are supporting violence against women. We are supporting criminal behavior, criminal mischief. We are supporting that kind of behavior. When they get rid of people like Henry Cavill, they are saying, we do not like decent people.
But I tell you one thing, the one thing that they don't endorse is going over to your boss's head and trying to get a movie deal. That's where they draw the line. That's where you see all kinds of articles on Variety about what a bad person you are if you dare go over their heads and threaten their power directive. So, I mean, there's that. I mean, you know, Hollywood's learning just a little bit. So, I mean,
you want to know what I would say? What kind of power did you have if I was able to go over your head?
Apparently not that much.
It's just when I hear the story, it's just okay. The Rock is just conducting himself as a movie star.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm supposed to feel some type of way about this. I mean, it is a crazy story and how convoluted WB is in general. But that's really what I gather from this. And honestly, I don't know whether The Rock is necessarily a movie star or not. I think that he thinks that he is. And hey, I mean, more power to you. But this goes to show that Hollywood does not want movie stars anymore. They just want, they want people that are easily replaceable. Exactly. They want puppets that are easily replaceable.
The way I see it, Warner Brothers is acting like Joe Biden. They want the world to, or they want to freaking burn themselves in on the atmosphere, and they want to make sure that they burn to crisp as soon as they land.
Joe Biden thinks that his name is applesauce on Wednesday. I don't think he's really thinking that more. Maybe his handlers are, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Himself is thinking.
I mean, he's doing everything he can to ruin the goddamn country, and Warner Brothers is doing everything they can to ruin their freaking image. So
it goes to show you just the
back
incredible
to the
incompetence behind people.
Well, no, Cassie made me think about how these people are silencing others. I mean, maybe they think that it's not going to be the name, it's going to be the character, and we've seen this in how other like the DC, not the DC, the Marvel people. Did they go to see Chris Evans, or did they go to see Captain America? Did they go to see Chris Hemsworth, or did they go to see Thor? Maybe the thinking is, well, people aren't going to go see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. They're going to go see Black Adam. Not enough people went, so it's obviously his fault, not ours, for giving him a substandard script and just overrolling it. People are not going to go see Ezra Miller. They're going to go see The Flash. So it doesn't matter who we have as The Flash, and we can keep this guy going, this individual doing all sorts of bizarre to crazy things, so long as we have the Flash, or the person that's the Flash. Again, I don't understand their thinking. It's just bizarre to me. But well, they're the ones who are paid millions.
And before we move on here to our final topic of the night, I do want to address this one, because this has been talked about for a while, about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, about how much of a draw he is, like, in reality, because there's people that have questioned his drawing power, especially over the last few years. Now, he's been involved in some big movie projects over the years. Obviously, the Fast and Furious franchise, I think, really took a giant step up and moved forward as being a big box office hit when he joined. I think it was after Fast 5 when he came along, or that whole series started to blow up. So that was kind of the jump off point of the megastar Dwayne Johnson that we've gotten over the last few years. But outside of that, you look at a lot of his other projects that haven't really done particularly well with just him in the lead. I mean, look at Hercules. That's a movie that really didn't do as well as studios expected it to do. You had other movies like the Kevin Hart movies like Central Intelligence. I
I
don't
liked
remember
that Hercules movie though. It was
Yeah.
funny. It was great.
Like Central Intelligence was a decent box office hit, but nothing too big. We had Moana, which was a pretty solid hit. I think Moana was pretty good. But then you had things like Baywatch. You had Rampage, Skyscraper, some pretty bad movies there. And then the Jumanji series is the only one I could think of. The first one did pretty damn well. I think it almost made $1 billion. And then the second one was also a big hit there. But you're also talking about an ensemble. It's not really like The Rock by himself. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's arguments being made there about how big of a draw The Rock is, like in reality. Like I said, this whole Black Adam movie is something he's been working on for 15 years, and it only really made not even $400 million for a DC superhero movie starring who's supposed to be the biggest star in Hollywood right now. So that just goes to answer that question. And then Mephisto has this other question here: why does The Rock command the highest salary in Hollywood? Like I said, I think it has more to do with the films that he did before. When he started becoming the biggest star in Hollywood, that was when they were doing the Fast and Furious movies, and then right before like Jumanji, that's when they were really paying him, out the butt to do all of these questionable films. And then even for Red Notice, I believe they paid him, Gal Gadot, and Ryan Reynolds like $20 million a piece to do that Netflix movie that came and went so fast. Most people don't even remember it, but there are going to be a sequel, and they're going to get paid even more as well. So
here's the thing. It's interesting. He's done very well for how, frankly, crappy his career's been. His movies have made just enough money where his agent and manager can sell him as the top, whatever Cassie's, I'm sorry, I forget who said it, but yeah, it was just like being the top person in Hollywood. It's like he's been able to generate that because he's been successful enough to do it. But if you really look at his resume, it's pretty middling, and there's not much there to speak of.
Well, there's the Scorpion King too, but that didn't do well. I think it's a cult classic now, right? I think it bombed in theaters and made up for it in home video sales.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like Rock's. I was going to say real quick. Yeah, The Rock's career. I was going to say
the Scorpion King.
You must be like 5 seconds behind like the rest of us right now. But I was just gonna say, before the Fast and Furious movies, The Rock didn't really have those many big hits. Like right after he left WWE, like he was known for, like I said, the Walking Tall and what was it the Tooth Fairy and movies like that. So it wasn't until he really got into that Fast and Furious franchise where his career kind of took a turn upwards, because there was a lot of years there where he was really kind of struggling to find his footing in his Hollywood career. So the run that he'd been on was pretty much more recent than it was back in the past.
Yeah, I was gonna say real quick that with the Scorpion King, that was in his first appearance in Mummy Returns was just kind of a cameo. He really didn't do much. Mm-hmm. When they tried to build a whole film around his character, it didn't do well. And then I think they had maybe one or two others. I think they had other people as the actual Scorpion King. Because I saw the Scorpion King. I was very unimpressed, but he worked fine in Mummy Returns.
Yeah,
and even the end, that was a CGI character. It wasn't like really him.
Right.
It's not. I mean, there was a perception of success. We'll put it that way. There's a perception of success with Dwayne Johnson that perhaps is not there.
Well, and he's had a lot of experience being in film or at least being on TV and in the film industry for a long time now. Because Mummy Returns was like early aughts, like 2002, right? So, I mean, he's and he's very likable. I mean, a lot of people really like him. I know people who've worked with him and they have nothing to say but nice things. And he seems he's a family man. He's got kids and he's got a very pretty wife. And it's very. I mean, when you compare him to Ezra Miller, I mean, like, I'd rather work with The Rock, sure, and I think that gets you. I mean, like, just having so many different genres too that he's done work in, even if they're not great, that's something to say for just being kind of in everywhere. Like the fantasy people know him from The Mummy, the more like thriller adventure people know him from Fast and Furious, and then Jumanji was comedy, and then all the kids movies he's done. I mean, it's not just Moana, it's Race to Witch Mountain remake, it's the Tooth Fairy,
yeah.
The game, the
Game Plan,
and
The Super Pets too.
Yeah,
Gridiron Gang, like where he's the football coach.
Yeah, and so and then you've had, so that's like Disney and MGM and Legendary and Netflix, and so he's been pretty much everywhere. And I think even if you're like not maybe like super great at acting, at least there's this idea that you've been around a long time, and if you're likable, you can stay there, I think a lot of people don't like him now from Variety just because it's somebody else's turn, or he's a man, and he's very tall, still very muscular, very good shape man. Like, he works out like crazy.
I get it. You're attracted to The Rock. Move on.
No, I do hope that I'll get a chance to meet him one day. I'm seeing if I can get a pass to get on his next movie. So
go for it. Yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much the story there. People.
I want to meet Zachary Levi. If I could pick any actor to meet, I want to meet Zachary Levi. Okay, so
fair enough. I mean, I've heard some good things about him, so I won't trash him. But yeah, so Warner Brothers executives are super butthurt about The Rock. So it's like, yeah, get over it. You guys protecting Ezra Miller, so it's like your album really doesn't hold any water here. But we will move on.
That's the big ticket there is like when you compare him to Ezra Miller, it's like why question this?
Yeah.
Well, I got a question for you guys actually, because we were talking about movie stars. I think Christian Bale might be on that list of one of the very few superstar names that draws people into a movie.
Well, he has a lot of respect for Batman, I think. So
yeah, last year wasn't a very good year for Mr. Christian Bale as far as box office movies go.
And listen, I've been a big Christian Bale fan ever since I saw American Psycho. When I was a younger man, and so I followed his entire career at a certain point. I went to see Terminator Salvation for that guy. Okay. So Lord. It really depends on the property and the director he's working with, but I would agree with you. If Christian Bale's name is attached to something, I'm usually automatically interested. I went to see Amsterdam this year. It was one of the worst movies of the year. I was so disappointed. And then he played that terrible villain in the Thor movie. So I just, that was painful for me. But hopefully better things are coming his way. The Pale Blue Eye, worth checking out. He was pretty good in that.
Shout out to our buddy Spencer here from Bounding in the Comics. I know Spencer's going through a rough time right now, so we're all thinking about you. But I am tempted to time you out for 5 minutes for being late here on the show. I mean, you had 2 hours to be here. So, I mean, just from old time's sake, I'll hold off since we're already about to wrap this show up. But we have one more topic to talk about here for the night, and it is going to be the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania story, because apparently Disney has ordered reshoots of this movie because they want to lighten up the tone and make it more comedic. So the story that I've heard from a couple of people who have good sources regarding what exactly happened here with the story is that the original cut of Ant-Man and the Wasp has been done for a while, but apparently internally Disney executives did not like the tone of the film. According to them, it was quote unquote too dark. So they ordered reshoots very, very close to the film's release, because we're only about like a month away until the film comes out in movie theaters, and they're doing reshoots to add a little bit more comedy scenes. And for what I've heard, they actually changed the ending to the movie to make it more lighthearted. So I'm gonna go ahead and read what this one says here. Then I have a couple of interesting things to back up on it here. But yeah, new rumor claims that the reported reshoots for Ant-Man and the Wasp are done to assert Marvel's trademark cheap laughs and lame jokes into the film. Earlier this month, Paul Rudd was photographed in Los Angeles filming reshoots. There's a couple of shots here carrying what appears to be a Dunkin' Donuts box. So it seems like maybe there's a scene early on in the film here that they're trying to reshoot to make it more funny and more comedic. Following the revelation, Andre Anajar, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, forgive me, but reported that the reshoots are being undertaken to insert Marvel's trademark cheap jokes into the film. For all of its virtues, Marvel executives did allegedly have one big problem with the cut that Peyton Reed delivered. Apparently, it deviated too much from the Marvel formula. It is to say that it had a compelling story, a narrative structure that will keep fans engaged, but what it didn't have was enough jokes, enough laughs, trademarks, and Marvel lightheartedness. Then he continued, and then the reshoots were reportedly done that were aimed at doing to add jokes and cheap laughs to make by default a serious movie with heavy themes in order to make it more lighthearted for its masses. Now, when you're talking about MCU films, you're talking about the type of crowd who, have you ever seen the audience reactions for MCU movies where they're all in the movie theater and one of the characters from the MCU appears and everyone goes crazy like it's like you ever know, like watch old like sitcoms from like the 80s and 90s where it's like the star of the show walks in and everybody goes, oh my God, and starts clapping and stuff like that. That's essentially what you have with your MCU crowd here. He says that the reshoots to this end were done independently documented on January 6th. So this is how soon the reshoots were doing. It was only a couple of weeks ago. They were filmed on location. Apparently the reshoots were to marvel up the movie on an ongoing closed soundstage, which had already been in the process for weeks. So like I said, there's rumors out there that they completely reshot the ending to make it more comedic and make it more lighthearted. Now here's where the problem kind of lies here with this story is that according to, well, not really according to anybody, but pretty much we all know that the villain of this series is supposed to be Kang the Conqueror, who I believe is being played by Jonathan Majors. So he's supposed to be the next Thanos level big bad villain to get everyone excited about the MCU futures for the next 4 or 5 years. So they're bringing him in here with this movie. So they're putting a lot into it since they're already giving you the villain right out of the gate on Ant-Man 3. But in order to take him seriously as a villain going into the next 4 years of movies that you guys have already planned, you kind of have to do something drastic to establish him as a threat in the movie. So there's been rumors about Ant-Man dying. There's been rumors about certain characters around this universe dying and stuff like that. So pretty much the tone of this film is going to be darker. It's going to be more serious, but that's kind of what you need in a film of this level when you're establishing your next villain that's going to be portrayed here. But I guess the job was done a little too well because the Marvel executives did not like the lack of humor, the lack of funny, the lack of lightheartedness in the film. So now they're here in the 11th hour making changes to a movie that's supposed to release like next month. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Cassie on this one. What do you think about the essentially Marvel reshooting the ending to a movie coming out here that's supposed to be, you know, their next big star for, is it phase 4? Are we at phase 4 or phase 5? I believe it's phase 5 now that we're at here. But what do you think about the reshoots?
So in regards to this, it's kind of sad to me that they don't want to at all try to do something different from the same old nonsense that comic book fans have been forced to gargle for what 13, 14, 15 years now or something like that.
We're at 15 years now of MCU movies, so yeah.
Yeah, I can't stand it. It just the thought of sitting through another one of these films that's just another cut and dry, nonsensical CGI fest makes me want to vomit. I'm actually kind of shocked that a director and writers were able to make a film in the beginning that was different from the usual cookie cutter shit. I'm surprised that they have to reshoot because they chose to do something different. And that's kind of the shame of it all, really, in the grand scheme of things. It seems like the film is deviating from what is the usual, and that would at least, challenge the medium. But apparently that's not a thing with comic book movies, and that's why I just want them to die already.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say this. There's the difference between comic book and manga adaptations like Kingdom and Tokyo Revengers. The comic book movies are not even adapting the source material that much anymore, from what it seems like.
Yeah.
With movies like, yeah, there's some messes here and there with the manga to live action adaptations, but if you've ever, and Spencer knows this because he watched Kingdom and I think he did watch Tokyo Revengers. If you've ever seen Kingdom and Tokyo Revengers, that is how an adaptation is supposed to be done. You have the writer with Kingdom. I don't know if it's true with Tokyo Revengers, but I know with Kingdom, the mangaka worked really closely with the director. The same thing happened with the Bleach live action. Kubo worked closely with the director. And you actually have the story being told from the manga with the actors looking exactly or really close to looking like the characters that the author envisioned. And you don't have that in Marvel anymore. No, they just want to race swap everything.
Well, it's not only that, but you're talking about a movie here where, like I said, obviously, someone brought this up earlier. I think it may have been Neil, but your first two movies here, sorry, DK actually brought this up. Your first two movies here in the Ant-Man series were pretty comedic for the most part, outside pretty much like the ending for the second Ant-Man movie because it was used to build up to Avengers Endgame. But you have a character, Kang the Conqueror, who's, an Avengers level threat, who's known for conquering worlds and conquering universes and timelines and stuff like that. So you have to establish just how big of a threat he is. He's going to have to do some things that may not make the audience very happy. But if you take that out and you basically just do a bullshit Avengers comedy, similar to what you did with Ultron and Age of Ultron, where you yucked him up and ruined the whole flow of that movie, what are we doing here for the next 4 years? Because I'm not sure if you guys have seen Phase 5 in its entirety for the next 6 movies that we got coming out. None of these movies look compelling at all. And these are all supposed to be the movies that build up to your next Avengers movies in, 4 years when that shit finally comes out? So it's like, what's even the point of trying to make this lighthearted when you actually have to set a tone moving forward here? Like, you're going to have to accept the fact that, hey, you might not get as many laughs in this movie as you used to, but if you're telling a better story down the line, what the hell are we doing?
You can still have comedy with dark stuff, but it just has to be well written and bounce it out. But from what MCU is doing, they just want to treat everyone like with the what's the wording I'm thinking of? They want to coddle everyone. That's the thing, and that's what held M3GAN back too, because M3GAN was supposed to have a rated R rating, but because of that stupid trend on TikTok.
Yep.
Got to coddle the audience. You can't challenge the audience anymore in Western media.
Well, Rob, I know you have nothing but disdain for MCU fans. What do you feel about them changing the tone of this movie?
Well, I mean, see, that's the thing is like, this is what I look for in movies in general, is to be challenged, is for something to shock me, surprise me, make me laugh, entertain me, take me by surprise in some manner. And there's nothing about an MCU movie that does that. So MCU fans themselves are infantilized in general. I don't want to insult anybody here who might like them, and that's fine if you do. But the people I come across on Twitter who think that there's some cinematic achievement, or I just, it's like, I'm sorry, I don't know what the hell you're smoking, what crack you have in your pipe, what you've seen or what you haven't seen to come up with that opinion.
So we don't know anybody like that,
right? And this is the third Ant-Man movie. I can't tell you how much I don't give a shit, but I bet you some amount of money that we're going to be reviewing it in a couple weeks. So I at least have it to look forward to in that manner. but yeah, it's just another MCU movie to me, and it's the third Ant-Man. So, but yeah, I think it was nice that they at least had a thought that they were going to be creative at a certain point. But of course, Disney's not going to allow that.
Let me shoot this over to Rick here, because I know you love the cinematic achievement that is the MCU here, but it seems like to me that Disney, more specifically Disney, has really had a tough time with the creative directions of a lot of their films, not just the MCU. Now, if you go back last year, you had the Doctor Strange 2 movie, which was supposed to be written by Robert Cargill and Scott Derrickson. They left that project because they kept butting heads with the studios, and they were like, you know what, screw this, let's go do a movie we actually wanted to do, and which was called The Black Phone, which is a far better movie than Doctor Strange 2 was. But if you go back to even like the Star Wars thing, you had like the original writers for what was it, the Han Solo movie leave because they were bickering with Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm. You had the movie, what was it, the Rogue One, which is the Star Wars movie, where I think like 60-70% of that entire movie was reshot, to the point if you watch that first trailer for the movie, none of that stuff is in the actual final cut of the film that they released in theaters. They rewrote the whole thing. This is a common theme with Disney, and Cassie mentioned it earlier. It's like they don't want actors, they don't want directors, they don't want writers. They essentially want traffic guards. So like, here's your notes, here's your script, now just make it look good. What do you think about just this whole nonsense with the MCU, Rick?
Well, I think Rob is right. Putting in more comedic elements in Ant-Man, if that's the case, it's not going to it's going to keep them childlike, because you have a chance apparently to do something dark and move the story forward. If this has been going on for 15 years, and let's assume that you were 15 when you saw the very first Iron Man, how old would you be now? What, 30? It's about time you accepted that you're, pushing into adulthood and accept the dark elements of life.
I mean, let's be honest. If you're a young adult who started watching these movies like back when it started in 2008, you're starting to push 40 now when it comes to these movies, and you'll probably be 40 by the time the next Avengers movies come out. So it's like, if you can't handle dark content in your 40s, like what person are you?
You're a very mature one who's been kept as a child. Adding comedic elements is not going to help matters. I mean, there were comedic elements in what, Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. Did that make the movie better? There were this first one that came to mind. I don't know if there were any comedic elements in Black Panther or Wakanda Forever. I don't remember. I only remember Angela Bassett's Oscar-winning performance. I really do not understand why you need to change it, and you change the ending. All right. I mean, once you finish the movie, once you wrote the script, once you had the script approved, and once you filmed it, you should have it locked. You should have it locked in. To go back and reshoot an ending. That to me is a sign of a film that is not set. It's a troubling sign. You should have your movie finished. You should have everything set and ready to go by the time you're ready to premiere your film. To go back and, I mean, I understand you need to reshoot sometimes. Some things did not quite turn out well, or there was, maybe you found some continuity error, but to reshoot the ending and then to try to make it funny. Are they going to try to make the villain funny? You don't take a comedic villain seriously.
Yeah.
He or she is never going to be a threat. So I don't understand why they're trying to do this. Is it a sign of desperation, or is it a sign that they don't trust your audience? Look, if you're going to make a movie that's going to be dark, and maybe because the first two Ant-Mans were lighter, were more comedic, and Paul Rudd's great at that. And then you had was it that Michael Pena character, whom I thought was great, and he put in a lot of comedy into at least the first one. I don't remember if it was in the second one, but if you need to change things to kind of lighten the mood, what kind of film did you have? Did you plan? This is going to be essentially the kickoff for your Phase 5.
Yeah.
And
after
you're
ending Phase 4 on a shit.
Changes. Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to get Best Picture, Wakanda Forever. So stop complaining, there, Jacob.
Yeah.
And it's going to win for Angela Bassett's, she has not suffered enough speech. So that's going to be her turning point. It's just, for me, changing the ending is very troubling. If that's what they're going to do, to make it lighter, you don't need to change an ending to make it lighter, and you really shouldn't even be changing an ending. That element is what concerns me about how good this film is going to be. People are going to rush to see it, but the MCU has been having what diminishing returns with Thor and
Doctor
Eternals, Black
Strange and yeah.
Panther, Doctor Strange. All of these people, they're not going to go back to see them. The people are not going to rush. I mean, the only one what is Spider-Man. Spider-Man is pretty light. It's stupid. It's unbearably stupid. It's beyond infantile. But
I'm glad
I
you
mean,
brought that
just,
up. I'm glad
yeah.
you brought that up
Go
real
ahead.
quick because since Endgame, which was what almost 4 years ago now, the only successful MCU film that they've released since is that Spider-Man movie. You have to remember that Spider-Man movie was Sony's venture, so I believe like 70 to 80% of the profits from that film that almost made $2 billion went to Sony, not Disney. As far as these Disney MCU films go, obviously they had a tough time during the pandemic because no one was really going to go see Shang-Chi and Black Widow and Eternals and all of those movies. So then they thought, okay, we're back now with Doctor Strange and Thor and Black Panther, and none of those movies really hit the way that they thought they were going to either. And moving forward, you have this movie, the Ant-Man 3 movie. You have Guardians 3 coming out later this year. And then your big film that you're wrapping up the entire year on is what? Captain Marvel 2. That's your big movie. And then even if you go even further than that, what else do you have? You have the Thunderbolts movie, which is basically just your Marvel version of what the Suicide Squad and what they're going to be doing like over there. You have Blade, which are the director and the writer already left that project because that thing's going to be a fucking mess. And then the last thing you have is the Black Captain America movie you have coming out next year. So Disney's internally panicking with the direction of the MCU because they know that they've reached a point where if they don't do something big, people will just stop going to go see these movies, and these movies aren't going to be guaranteed billion-dollar hits the way that they were 5-10 years ago. So any last thoughts from anybody here on the Ant-Man story?
I do want to say this though, is that it's very interesting with what Disney is doing because you have Disney acquiring anime. They have a deal with Kodansha now. And the anime, I'm so surprised that Disney Japan is keeping their promise, as far as I know, that it's uncensored. So, and for the record, anything that's on Disney in the US is on Hulu. Everywhere else, it's Disney Plus. So I have to point that out. But don't you think that's kind of interesting though, that Disney Plus will put like more mature content outside of the US, but in the US, it's not doing it.
Well, Disney has proven that they're willing to change their marketing tactics or general tactics in order to conform to wherever they are. That's why when you have black actors in their movies, they choose to make them really tiny on the poster in places like China, or just take them off the poster entirely, because the Disney is not a morally good company. They just want to do certain things to please certain people in certain places. And they're willing to do any disgusting, terrible thing, or in this instance, it's actually beneficial to Japan with what they're doing in regards to that. But to us, apparently not.
Yeah, they don't care about the U.S. market no more. They only care, from what I've seen, they care about the Asian market because streaming just started in Asia like not that long ago. So that's where they're focusing on.
I just want if you're going off the Avatar market, then 70% of your box office receipts, now over 70% of your box office receipts are coming from overseas now. You're not even getting that much of a pull to the United States anymore. But that's the way that Hollywood has done it now. So you guys value China more than you value the United States, and you wonder why your receipts are getting lower and lower. So it is what it is. Did anyone else have anything they want to add here before we wrap it up? I'm going to go ahead and take that as a no. So we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up here. We're going to go ahead and say our goodbyes, promote our stuff, let you guys know what we have coming up here on the show on our own personal projects. I want to start with C.S. Johnson here. I know you've been dying to tell everyone about your book, so tell them what new thing you got coming up here.
Okay. Well, I'm working on finishing up my Fat Girl series, and my cat just dropped a bunch of stuff. Okay. Sorry.
Now you're gonna have to drop your cat.
Nicely. I got my the Fat Girl is winding down. I got my finale coming out in a couple weeks, and part 1 is due out at the end of this month, and then part 2 will be out next month. And it's a much better story than Velma, so you don't even have to pirate it. You can pay me money, make an honest reading out of it. So
I mean, you can shit in a plate and throw it at someone and be a better storytelling than Velma. So, I mean,
Oh my god. Get more laughs out of it too, clearly.
Yeah.
You forgot the part where you light it on fire first.
And then moving over to our good buddy Colt Castle Cage, what do you got coming up for the show tonight?
So I think after this podcast, I'm going to literally go off of here and record a video dumping on the people that keep trying to browbeat gamers into not buying Hogwarts Legacy. So very intentional in trying to make people mad. So that's what I'm good at, and that's what I'm planning to do. So if you want to tune in for that, just follow my YouTube channel, Cult Classic Cage.
All right, then. Moving over to our good buddy Orange Hat Reviews over here. What you got coming up on your channel, my friend?
Well, I got my 1200 sub and birthday review coming, or birthday celebration coming on Wednesday night on the 1st of February. I have more mystery reviews. I just did my review for Wrath of Man, which was an interesting movie because I haven't seen that one and thought it was very good. Next week, I will be doing a Hitchcock film that I haven't seen before. So that's going to be interesting. I do guest choice reviews where I bring people on to my channel and they get to pick the movie, the time, and the date. And we get to talk about a movie. It's a movie that we both enjoy. And tomorrow night, I will be on Jade Shadow's channel discussing Terminator 2. So, yeah, that's what I got planned so far.
All right, then jumping over to our buddy Nerdigans. In 10 words or less, tell us what you're working on.
Oh, no.
I'm covering more censorship stories, unfortunately, because Crunchyroll.
That's 10 words.
We have a very active translator going on attacking people. But I also covered an update on my channel, Nerdigans Inc. I covered the update to a story that I did for Bounding back in June about how I think I turned my childhood friend into a girl that got revised and released. And it is good. It's a lot better now. And it's actually what happens when you get very active in the community and go to the Japanese publishers, whether it be video games or anime or manga now, it seems like. But anyways, I'm covering Trojan X right after this, as well as, the other manga that's coming out this week. I am, for Bounding, besides the Crunchyroll censorship one, I did Goblin Slayer. The interview is coming out that I did with Sakaki, and I'm working on getting more interviews with some mangaka, including for the one that's exposed the bestiality story. So if there's a show tomorrow, I'll be on. If there's not, then I'll be back here next Tuesday.
Yeah, it'll be next Tuesday. Unless you want to join us for Saturday to watch face punching fights.
Maybe. We'll see what I'm doing for this one's 5th birthday. We'll see.
Get some beer and join us for fights. Anyway, let's move over to Mr. Rob Motto. What you got coming up there, Rob?
So yeah, I have my Man Called Otto review coming out, and then I am starting my John Woo movie series with Better Tomorrow. And yeah, I just wanted to mention that Hogwarts Legacy thing. Like, I would have never heard about that and never paid attention to it. And now I'm like, hey, I want to buy that game just to spite those assholes who are like not going to buy it. So like, I didn't even know about it. And I was like, hey, like, I'll totally watch your video that you do on that. But yeah, I'm getting back in the swing of doing movie reviews. I've done 3 so far for this year. So I just kind of want to get that going and just check out my Twitter. I talk about movies and, I'll see you all over there.
Rob's reading a book right now too, so go follow his Twitter account.
Yeah.
And last and certainly least, Mr. Rick Aragon, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Did you say last and certainly least?
I don't know. I've been drinking a lot.
Oh, okay. All right. I might be drinking when the Oscar nominations come out, and I'm going, Angela Bassett, really? What are you doing? What she said, Best Picture. Anyway, so what I'm working on, I'm going to work also on my Otto the Grouch review. Also trying to review the Harry and Meghan docu series. I will be getting the book on Thursday, so maybe I'll review that.
I hate you so much.
I'll read it under my portrait of the Queen. Then yeah, and just trying to again clear out my DVR, catch up on some of my DVDs. Maybe I also have my Strange World review that I have to work on. I did actually go see
God.
it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just trying to catch up on the reviews, clear out some of the things, and just looking forward to. I'm looking forward to Monday.
Oh my.
Yeah. So Saturday we got face punching happening. So we're gonna be watching a UFC card this Saturday night. They're in Brazil. They're still going through with the Brazil show, even though like the whole country's in unrest. So that should be pretty fun to watch this Saturday night. So join us on YouTube, Twitch, and on Twitter for that one. That'll be fun. This coming Monday, we're not going to be reviewing a movie. We're going to be watching a movie on Twitch and on Twitter only. So I'll give you an update on the YouTube channel. But this Monday night, we're watching Elvira, Mistress of the Night. You wonder why we're watching that movie? You can blame this guy right here because it's all his fault. So we'll do that one on Monday night. Obviously, tomorrow we'll be doing... whatever, gives a shit. Whatever. Wednesday, the Black Pill stream. Myself, John, might be having some special guests on there tomorrow as well. And then next Tuesday, we'll be back here, same time, same place for episode number 33 of the Barroom Podcast. So a quick little shout out to all of our guys who joined us in the chat tonight. Alex versus Evil, Duke Nukem, Trey, Zeo Dozer, DK, Mephisto, who's joined us here tonight. I know Sarah is somewhere in the chat right now. Top Dog, Drax the Clown, Doba Fett. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anyone here. Spencer, who was here for us for a little bit. I already said DK, you're not getting 2 shout-outs on one show. Neo, who joined us here in the chat. Obviously, our good buddy John down there in Jacksonville. I'm pretty sure he's going to be watching the Jags play this weekend. By play, I mean lose by 30. And then, yeah, I think I pretty much got everyone. So just in case I didn't, thank you guys for joining us once again. Oh, Copa. No, can't forget Copa. So everyone who joined us on the show here tonight, everyone who joined us in the chat here tonight, make sure to like and subscribe so you guys can see our next episode here. But we're going to go ahead and get ready to wrap things up here. For everyone here on my show, for everyone who's currently either playing with their cat or playing with their phone, I don't know, there's a lot of playing going on right now. Thank you very much for joining us. We will see you guys hopefully on Saturday night. Hopefully we'll see you on Monday night for the Twitch stream when we watch Elvira. Then next Tuesday night here, same time, same place. So go ahead and wave to the crowd there, people, because we're getting the hell out of here. Good night. Spring Art.
Bye.